Just the last few people coming in, but I think we should make a start. How's your day gone? Good. I was hoping for a slightly louder cheer, but that's fine. You can do that later. How are you getting on in terms of your target of 30? Hands up who's had 30 people? I have. Okay, so okay, hands down. Bear with me. Okay, now the next exercise is, if you've had fewer than 30 people who you've met, put your hands up. Very good. Okay, now everybody else, if you could look at these people and target them afterwards so that they can get, because, you know, this is important. So everybody's got their hand up currently. Everybody under 30, back up again, please. There you are. That's who you need to go and say hello to afterwards, okay? Help them to get over 30. Good. Well, welcome back. Just bear with me. Thank you. We've had a fabulous morning and afternoon. I had to duck out in the afternoon, but I know not because I chaired it, but the panel session that I was in was just superb. Our panelists were great. Our scholars asked fantastic questions. All the feedback that I've had from the other panel sessions suggests that they were really outstanding. I hope you got a lot out of the networking sessions as well. And didn't we have great speakers this morning? We were so fortunate to have the Minister and the Secretary General. And the good news is that we continue with another outstanding speaker for you this afternoon. And moreover, it's a speaker who is herself a Commonwealth Scholar. So it's a real pleasure to introduce you to Professor Daniella Tilbury, who is a 1990 Commonwealth Scholar from Gibraltar. And she completed a PhD in higher education for sustainability at the University of Cambridge, which actually means, although we didn't meet each other then, but we are Cambridge contemporaries, because I was there doing my PhD more or less at the same time. She's far more impressive than I am, though. The first woman in her country to hold the title of university professor. The inaugural vice-chancellor, the inaugural vice-chancellor and chief executive officer of the University of Gibraltar. A passionate advocate for sustainability, Daniella's played a pivotal role on the board of WWF Australia, helping to establish the globally recognized Earth Hour in 2007. She's acted as advisor to national agencies in Europe, Latin America, and Oceania, and chaired several UN committees, and indeed was commissioned by UNESCO to develop think pieces, expert reviews, policy advice, frameworks, and sector evaluations. She's now the UK government's focal point at the UNECE and an expert advisor to the European Commission on Sustainable Development, as well as being a fellow of St. Catherine's College, Cambridge. She continues to be a change maker, a policy expert, and an academic leader in sustainable development. So we're incredibly fortunate to be able to welcome Professor Daniella Tilbury to give our afternoon speech. Daniella, thank you so much.
What a day it's been. It's been fantastic. I've been eavesdropping since this morning. You may have seen me sitting in the back, just listening to some conversations, and it is such a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm very excited. You know, it's almost like that energy that I had as a scholar in 1990 has sort of all come back with a rush. So thank you. Before I get started, I'm going to ask you if you could turn to the person next to you, and if you could just very briefly, I mean in 30 seconds, just say hi, and say, and just share one key thing. Just one key thing I'd like you to share. Ask and share, what's the one achievement you would like to have when your scholarship ends? What's that one achievement that you would like to have when the scholarship ends? 30 seconds each. Please make sure you change. So 30 seconds are well past. You listen to each other. We done? Great. Okay. Right. Now, if the achievement you just shared related to personal ambition, to personal success, to any personal goals that you've had, please raise your hand. Quite a few. If your ambition related to something other than directly affecting yourself, but affecting others, be they in the community you're working with, be it in the organization that you associate with, be it with a community that goes beyond your own immediate specialist area or interest, please raise your hand. Oh, so 50-50. That's pretty good. Right, okay, thank you. Thank you for doing that. So, on a more serious note today, my keynote is actually about scholars as change makers. That's what I really would love to talk to you about. And not as a slogan, but as something that has meaning, that has purpose, but also something that can be designed and thought through into the work that you do. That doesn't become an afterthought, but something that underpins most of the thinking and most of the work that you will do as part of a Commonwealth Scholar. So to start more formally, scholarship is about personal success, but it also is about a much bigger picture that we need to fulfill as Commonwealth Scholars. It is about a public good, and our Secretary General this morning spoke quite a bit about that, about the leadership responsibility we have, about the powerful levers that can make changes with not just in our own lives, but in those around us. As a Commonwealth Scholar myself, I remember the day that I first received that letter, the one that confirmed that I actually had a scholarship, and I'm sure most of you still remember that. We all know that that moment is life-changing. And I recognize and remember that day very vividly. But what I did not appreciate then was that that opportunity was not just about or for myself. The scholarship enabled me to change the lives of others over the years. And I think that that's really important to recognize. It's especially important that we recognize that this is not just an individual journey, that it is about how we shape not just our life prospects, but the futures of others whose pathways we've crossed. And so this conversation is very much about stepping back and seeing that much bigger picture, about rethinking what we do, about questioning what we take for granted, and about asking deeper questions about what research and education are really for. So to begin, let us understand some context. Across the Commonwealth, 58 countries, 2.6 billion people, which I learned this morning 60% are young people, share a history. But we live very different realities, and I think we need to recognize that. There are profound differences in resources, in risks, in capacity, and very much in opportunity. There is a network that is marked by extraordinary diversity and at times deep unevenness. Now, don't get me wrong, I think this is actually a strength of the diversity. It is not a complication, it is a resource for us as we move forward. More importantly, rather than focusing on our differences, I think it's really important to understand that we share a future. Climate change, conflict, widening inequalities, they do not respect national borders or boundaries. The challenges we face are increasingly global, systemic, they're interconnected. No country, no discipline, no institution can respond to them alone. This is the landscape that I operate in, the US scholars operate in, and it's really important to recognize there's no uniformity. It is in this context that I want to pose a fundamental question to you. What is scholarship in a time of climate, social, and economic fragility? I have to mention this before I move on to the more empowering and enabling aspect of my talk, but I do need to recognize the situation that we're currently living in. There's geopolitical tensions and shifting global power dynamics. We can't escape that. Economic and energy instability, increasing political intervention in education and in research, demographic changes, population pressures, rapid digitalization and growing influence of artificial intelligence, escalating climate impacts, rising expectations of what us as researchers, as educators and scholars need to deliver for society. These crises, these challenges are deeply interconnected, and so must be our responses, which is why today is so important. You have a diversity of disciplines, a diversity of backgrounds, and we must learn to connect those more deeply, because scholarship cannot be disconnected. It demands that we work across these divides, borders, timeframes, disciplines. We must connect for a better long-term future. But most importantly, scholarship cannot just be focused on the here and now. It cannot just be about problem solving. Whatever thesis, whatever education program you're doing, if it's just focused on here and now, we are missing a trick. We're missing an opportunity. We must generate new ways forward. We must be looking at new ways of seeing the world, of understanding complexity, of questioning the dominant assumptions or the dominant futures that we are facing. Because how we frame the problem determines whose voices are heard, whose solutions are considered legitimate, and which futures become possible. And it is there where you as scholars come in. And this is the important part for me. You're not just knowledge producers or knowledge sharers. You are change makers. And that means rethinking your role as scholars. So it's not just about bringing new knowledge into this world or sharing it or creating value around it. It's about thinking about deeper questions associated with that knowledge. So today I am examining exactly that. I'm going to be looking at what informs, supports, and transitions us into a very alternative and different future. I'm really focused on the transformative potential of the scholarship. And again, transformation not as a slogan, but as a practice. And I invite you to recognize that every research question you ask, that every methodology you choose, every partnership that you form as part of your scholarship, they are choices. And those choices influence priorities, they influence values, but they again influence the type of future that we face as a community. So choices you make matter. And that's really why it's so important to consider ourselves as change makers. So at this point in time, I'd like to invite you to explore 5 questions during your scholarship time. And I'd like to return to these today, but just to give you a very quick overview. Ask yourself, what assumptions about the future sit beneath your research and your teaching or your education? Who defines the problems you work on and who benefits from the knowledge you produce? Whose voices are included and whose are missing or marginalized? How does your work connect to real-world decision-making and societal change? And ultimately, what kind of future does your scholarship help make possible? As I said, I was eavesdropping today, and I heard some wonderful dialogues, a lot of discussion about the science, about the technology, the AI, about the community resilience, about the vulnerabilities. We need to not just respond and react to the futures that are facing us. We need to create alternative ones. And this is why I think these questions are important. Why do we need to ask ourselves this question? Because scholarship must respond to the critical times that we're living in. Because too much research is informational rather than transformational. Ask yourself that question as you go through your studies, as you go through your research work, as you go through your education. Am I learning more, or am I learning to change? Those are quite critical questions. We have become very good at diagnosing what is wrong. We have become less effective at shifting systems, shifting assumptions, shifting relationships. The way we frame what we are studying, what we are researching, needs to change so that it becomes more a change-making process. Scholars as change makers are not just producers of knowledge. They encourage, they engage, they go beyond the technical to become more consequential. These questions matter because we need to make sure that we have responsible consequences for the knowledge that we generate as scholars. Let me put it another way. A simple way of thinking about our expectations of research and education, how they've evolved over time, can be captured by the idea of us moving from mirrors to microscopes to lighthouses. For a very long time, particularly in the 1970s and the early 2000s, research has largely functioned as a mirror. It has reflected what we see in our society. Scholarship has reflected what is around us, our issues, our questions, our problems. And of course that's important, but it is not enough. The years that followed, particularly through the 2000s onwards, we've seen that research has moved from being about understanding and informing to looking at describing patterns by describing problems and documenting what is happening. Again, this is very valuable, very true. But we've become very microscopic sometimes in our research. And this is where the microscope concept comes in. We are looking very deep down and studying things through a microscope in ways that sometimes isolate us from seeing the connections between what we're studying and beyond. So we need to move. We need to move from the era of solving and investigating and zoom out to zoom away from producing deep and specialized insights to looking at telescopes, lighthouses, so we can look ahead. And of course, lighthouses function on mirrors. I don't know if you know how the system works, but you need mirrors to have lighthouses. So we do still need to understand, and we still need to analyze, but we need to project into the future, and we need to see well beyond what's immediately in front of us. It's no longer enough to just study down and deep. We need to look up and ahead. So as I mentioned, we have gone through these different phases in research and education. You determine what the next phase becomes. You are the community. You've been chosen because of your excellence, because of your commitment. You determine what the next aspect of this research will be, and you have that change-making role. It's a very important one. And I don't like focusing on the negatives, but if we are going to be moving forward, we need to recognize where we are falling short. Because despite all the progress, we need to recognize that the here and now is not enough, that the change agenda needs to underpin what we do, and that we must stop this fragmentation so that we can translate knowledge into more systemic change that goes beyond what's immediately in front of us. This is not a failure of effort or a failure of intelligence. It is a signal that the role of scholarship itself needs to evolve. As I say, you hold the key to the next step in this evolution process. The Sustainable Development Goals are important here. We all know that the 2030 agenda, wherever you are based, is having an impact in the lives we're living today and the futures that we're facing. Only 17% of the SDGs are currently on track. The question is, what kind of research education do we need to have to be able to address the SDGs in a more meaningful way? A lighthouse does not just reflect the world, it does not just analyze it in detail, it illuminates new pathways, and that's my challenge to you. Can we please navigate uncertainty? Can we still recognize that there's complexity? But please, can we look ahead? It is not enough to just look down. It's about asking better questions, but it is also about looking in the right direction. So, as I come towards the latter part of my talk, I want to offer a tool for thinking, for questioning as scholars. Can I ask you to think of yourself as that change maker? Can I ask you to consider an identity of someone who wants to make a difference, not just to their career prospects, but to their communities that they are informing and working with? A responsible actor, perhaps. And we have a lot of intellectual and academic heritage that we can bring to play here when we talk about scholars as change makers. Pablo Freire's work on critical pedagogy, Masrow's transformative learning are just two of those key critical theoretical underpinnings that support research as change. It's not just about advancing our specific subject areas. It's about advancing society in a much bigger picture. It's a frame of reference. So, let's think of it as directions on a compass. Directions that can guide your learning, your research, and your decisions. We can think about looking north, the futures, our work. What are we assuming? What are we normalizing? East, who defines the problem and whose knowledge counts? West, how knowledge is used, through which relationships are we working and establishing change? And finally, south, who benefits? Who benefits from our research? Who benefits from the work that we're doing? So let me talk briefly on each of these as I come towards the end of my presentation. Let us begin with north. It's about anticipation. It is about assumptions. The guiding question is, what future is my research assuming? All learning and research carries assumptions about what is valued, about what counts, about what is progress, and what is the future we desire. If you're doing a master's, if you're doing a PhD, your supervisor will have been asking you to identify your assumptions on day one. What are the assumptions that are shaping the way you see the world, the way that you ask questions in research? I'm asking you to prod that question even further and to ask, what future am I contributing to? That is what North is about. Because we make a lot of assumptions about the future. We need to unpack our own assumptions if we want to be those change makers. Let's look at East, power and voice. Because with East, we look sideways. If North was taking us forward, East makes us look sideways. To look at power, to look at voice. Who defines what you work on? Who benefits from the knowledge that you generate? Who defines the problem? Did you do it yourself? Did your supervisor do it? Did the person who's going to be benefiting from your research, are they involved in defining the work that you're doing? How do we create that space to bring in those people who will benefit, those groups, those communities, those specialist areas that will benefit from the work that you're doing? Then we have West, action and relationship. The West takes us from questions of voice to questions of action. It's about knowledge and use. It's about how your work connects to real work decision making. I was so excited about my PhD. I did my 3 years. I'd written the whole thing. I hadn't even completed my 3rd year and I'd done my research. And I remember going to my supervisor and saying, here's my first draft. I've still got time to revise it, but here's my first draft. And I said, and by the way, I'm going to Australia on an exchange for a month because I've seen this really exciting conference I want to go to as part of my Commonwealth Scholarship. I am allowed to go to Australia and I'm going to go there for a month. I went to Australia, I came back, and I realized that all the wonderful work that I thought I had done was going to be sitting in a library, and that it's very highly unlikely that however powerful my results were, that anybody would read it, because I had not involved the core people who I was trying to influence through my work, who I was trying to inform in the process of my research work. And indeed, that's what happened. So I came back, and I actually took an additional 6 months at that point to rethink and redo the research that I was doing. So who you involve, who you give the space to inform what you're doing really, really does matter, because knowledge is formed through relationships. Impact is formed through relationships. We build this deliberately and ethically. So it's really important to talk to your supervisors, your tutors, about how you draw in those people you're trying to inform, the policy frameworks, the actions, the groups of people who will benefit from your work. And that leads me to South, which is very much, again, about ethics and consequences. What future does your scholarship help make possible? We can be very successful academically, publishing lots of great papers, which are important for academic careers. But ultimately, how inclusive and how sustainable are the outcomes of the work that we're doing? Only you can answer that question. And I hope that on the train, on the cycle back to your accommodation tonight or to your university, that you ask yourself some of these questions, and they're not easy to answer. It might take you a while to address them. But let me try and pull all of this together as I come to an end. 5 key questions. What future are you assuming is going to happen? Are you accepting the status quo? Are you saying that what you read in the newspapers, that's what around you is what's going to happen? Or is your work and your partnerships and your engagement going to change that? Who was involved in defining the study and the problem that you are challenging and working on? What forms of knowledge are being privileged or discontinued? What relationships do you need? Not just to publish, but to matter as a scholar. And of course, that big question, who benefits? Who benefits? And we would do, and I think there's another really critical question that I was faced to consider myself. What happens if at the end of this process, at the end of it all, your research, which may have succeeded academically, which may have given you the qualification that you need, changes nothing? What happens? What has been learned through that experience? What do you take away as a scholar so that what you do next is done differently? This brings me very directly to your role as Commonwealth Scholars. And scholarships are more than just funding. The Commonwealth needs your intelligence, your rigor, your creativity, your passion, but also your expertise. But we need your leadership, a leadership for a different future. And that's not leadership through hierarchy, but through responsibility. Responsibility that questions the life we're living in, the world we're living in, and how things can improve for the future. You belong to a very, very powerful community. A very powerful community. A community committed to talent development across borders, to leadership and service, and to building long-term international networks. So I end and I say, with privilege comes responsibility. Values, integrity, use them. Use your knowledge very wisely. Make sure that your research, your education contributes to a fairer, more resilient, more sustainable future. Don't just finish your thesis. Make a difference. Thank you.
I have to resist the temptation to express my thanks to Daniella directly because I thought that was terrific, but somebody's going to do it far more eloquently than I can. So I'd like to invite up to the stage Prince Emma Yao, who is a 2025, like you, Commonwealth Shared Masters Scholar from Ghana, who's studying energy management at Robert Gordon University. And he's also the East Scotland Regional Network Coordinator, and he's going to come up and give a vote of thanks on our behalf. So please, Prince, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Robin, for that kind introduction. I promise to keep these thanks shorter than the journey took me to get here. the Secretary General of Commonwealth, the Honorable Shelley Ayukoboche, professors present, program officers, fellow scholars. It is truly a privilege to stand here today on behalf of all scholars to deliver a speech, not just in gratitude, but to express how transformative and important the Commonwealth Scholarship represents to some of us. Each scholar in this room carries a unique story, but then we are united by a common thread. That is a chance to turn potential into impact. With that in mind, I would like to share a brief reflection entitled From Purpose to Opportunities. I come from a small town in Ghana, from a family where resources were limited and opportunities often felt distant. I am the first in my extended family to attend a university, and that reality shaped my understanding that education was really not for me alone, but as a transformative measure to entire society. From an early age, I learned that dreams alone were not enough. They had to be matched with discipline, resilience, and also an unwavering belief that education could change not just my life, but the life of many others around me. My motivation for applying for the Commonwealth Scholarship was simple but powerful. I wanted an opportunity to study in the UK with the right support in order to achieve my goals. Coming from a poor background, I knew that this scholarship was more than a financial support. It was a gateway to global exposure, cultural exchange, and meaningful network. It represented access to possibilities I had only imagined. The journey here, however, was not easy. During my undergraduate studies, I envisioned becoming a Commonwealth Scholar. I began preparing deliberately. My first applications were in the 2023-2024 academic cycle, where I applied to over 10 different schools across different Commonwealth shared platforms and routes. I had 2 reservations, but ultimately, no offer. That rejection was difficult, but it did not break my resolve. Instead, I reflected, improved, and tried again. In the following cycle, I refined my academic focus, strengthened my professional profile, clarified my purpose, and applied with renewed determination. This time around, I was selected to study MSc Energy Management at the Robert Gordon University. That moment was a powerful reminder that persistence, when guided with purpose, always finds its reward. What made this opportunity even more meaningful was the timing. Just months before receiving the scholarship, I had secured a permanent employment with strong salary. Yet, I chose to step away from comfort and certainty because I believed deeply in the value of this experience. I chose growth over security. I chose purpose over ease. I chose the Commonwealth Scholarship because of the global perspective, leadership exposure, and lifelong impact it represents. The moment I truly realized the scholarship was life-changing was not just when I received the offer letter, but it was when I arrived in the UK and found myself in rooms filled with brilliant minds from across different countries. People with different culture, stories, discipline, united by a shared commitment to service and development. In that moment, I knew I was part of something far bigger than myself. This scholarship has shaped my confidence, leadership, and sense of purpose profoundly. Today, I serve as the East Scotland Regional Network Coordinator, supporting scholars across universities, fostering community, and creating spaces where ideas, collaboration, and belonging can thrive. It has given me the confidence to lead, to speak up, and to represent others with intention and humility. Academically, the program is equipping me with tools to address real-world challenges in energy transition, sustainability, and climate responsibility. Beyond the classroom, the scholarship has expanded my global network and strengthened my commitment to service. On behalf of fellow scholars, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission and the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office for supporting our education. Thank you for believing in scholars from disadvantaged backgrounds and for creating opportunities that transform lives, families, and entire communities. What we are enjoying today is the result of intentional investment in human potential. To my fellow scholars, my message is simple. Your background does not define your ceiling. Rejection is never the end of the story. Purpose, when pursued with resilience, always finds its way forward. The Commonwealth Scholarship is not just an award, but it's an opportunity to lead, to serve, and build bridges across nations. But the question is, who benefits? Let's go out there and create a meaningful impact. Let's make that difference that will support communities, countries, and the world. On that note, I stand here today not just as a beneficiary of this opportunity, but as someone committed to using it to create a long life, creating impact. Thank you very much.
Well, we've had 4 outstanding speeches today, haven't we? I was going to say just 3 because we had the Minister and then we had the Secretary General and we had Daniella, who was just fantastic. And then we had that, which was a bonus for us all. You can perhaps guess that it is slightly intimidating to be up here in front of all of you. I was about to say I wasn't that good when I was his age. I'm not that good now, never mind when I was his age. Isn't he just a fantastic example of what a Commonwealth Scholar is? As you all are, but let's give him a vote of thanks. Well done. You've worked hard. Shall I give you some good news? This is the last speech. And then you can go and enjoy yourself and network and have a great reception. But if you could just bear with me for a few more moments, there are just a few more people that I'd like to thank on your behalf. I mentioned the role of regional network coordinators. And in case you haven't met yours yet, I'd like to introduce you to them. So if hopefully you're not shy and you don't mind standing up. But for the Midlands, we have Geoffrey Dio. Is Geoffrey here? There's Geoffrey. Thanks, Geoffrey. Stay standing up so we can admire you. For Oxford, we've got Part Adhikari. Perhaps not here today. Okay. For the Northwest, we've got Christopher Ocko. Christopher, there we go. Thank you, Christopher. London, we've got Lakshita Jangid. I've met... Very good, thank you. West Scotland, we've got Curat Olaine. Not here currently. I haven't got my glasses on, so somebody could be standing up and I just can't spot you. So make a noise if I miss you. From the southwest, we've got Edikan Inime. They're great. Southeast, Ranushi Ubiratna. There, fantastic. And Cambridge, we got SM Mashrur Arafin Ayon. There we are, very good. And of course, if you could stand up against Prince Efa Emiyao from Ghana, who's the East Scotland Regional Network Coordinator. So, thank you. You can sit down now. Thank you. These guys do a great job on all of our behalves to make sure that you can network, not just at these big events, but also in your regions. So thank you to them for all the hard work that they put in. I also want to say thank you to all of our stakeholders and our partners. Once again, to the FCDO for their generous support of the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission for many decades now, to FCDO colleagues who do a terrific job promoting and supporting the scheme, to the desk officers. I'd also like to say a huge thanks to the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Stephen Twigg, who is a massive advocate and ally of the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. To all of the university guests and staff, some of you help us as advisors, and all of you are tremendously supportive, and I want to give a huge thanks to you. I'd like also to say thanks to staff from the High Commissions of Bangladesh, Eswatini, Malawi, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, all of whom are here or have been here at some point today. And a number of them will be attending the reception once I'm done, which you're all looking forward to, I know. So all of those people, if you're a scholar and you meet them at the reception this evening, could you say a huge thanks? Because without them, we really couldn't do all of the things that we do. And then finally, the whole of the Secretariat have done a huge job putting on today for you. But I'd particularly like to embarrass Charmin and Hannah. Are they in the room, or are they're probably out working, aren't they? Oh, please stand, because we want to say thank you. There's Charmin, thank you. And where's Hannah? Hannah's outside, so Charmin, Hannah, as always, a brilliant job. Thank you. So, some closing thoughts. You've heard a huge amount today, haven't you? In the first talk from the Minister, the emphasis on connections throughout the Commonwealth. From the Secretary-General, or lots there, but I'll repeat something that that struck me earlier. Of course, you'll leave the UK with a qualification, but more, you'll be empowered to be a public good. From Daniella, the challenge to you, don't just acquire knowledge, don't just produce knowledge, but use knowledge to be a change maker. Build bridges, not walls. Ask yourself, who benefits from everything that you're experiencing during your time studying with us? Make friends, work together, grow your network. That's a big part of what we're here to do today. You are members now of an incredibly powerful community. You heard it, over 31,000 alumni of the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. Added to that, I'm going to get the number wrong, and Emma from Hennessy from the FCDO will correct me later, but over 60,000 Chevening scholars. Put that all together, we have a network of over 90,000 scholars who have been through the UK government scholarship schemes. That's an incredibly powerful network, and you are now a member of that community for life. And so the last, thank you, well done. And so my last plea, other than come and say hello to me at the reception and tell me all about what you're doing and what your plans are, my last plea is that even if we don't see you at the farewell event in the summer, that you stay connected with the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, because we want to find out about all the terrific things that you're going to go on to do. So you're an alumnus and alumna for life. You will make friends for life in this room, at your universities and elsewhere. And we really ask that you stay connected with us, because we're immensely proud of you, and we want to find out about all the great things that you're going to go on and do. So the really, really good news is I've finished. So enjoy the reception, and I look forward to saying hello to you all there. Please now make your way up to the Pickwick room, which is where the reception is. Thanks, everyone.